And Mark, let's move on into that trade. So the Rams trade for defensive lineman Dante Fowler Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Rams get Fowler, and they give up a third-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick next year for Fowler. Fowler has 2 sacks this season and has played 32.7% of the Jags' defensive snaps this year. The first thing I want to list off is, before we go in-depth on the Rams, I want to mention the Jacksonville Jaguars, because this is one where you draft Fowler Jr. in, the third
2015
overall pick of 2013? 15. So it's been 3 years since you've drafted him, third overall. You get now a third and then a future fifth for him. And the other thing that I'm thinking here is, so you ship Dante Fowler Jr., but you don't make a trade for a quarterback? Are the Jaguars done this year?
What quarterback were they gonna get?
Tyrod. They could have traded for Tyrod.
Not much better than Blake Bortles.
Oh, a lot better than Blake Bortles.
He's better, but he's not that much better.
He's not a Peyton Manning, but he's going to be better than Blakey Bortles. Come on now. Like, he was playing good this year. That's the thing that I think of is, first off, how bad does this look that a past first-round pick, you're giving up a third and a fifth, and then this is the only move you make today? You just ship a guy off and you don't try to bring in anything that could maybe make your team better? A team that we thought would win the Super Bowl or be in the Super Bowl discussion?
The only thing I think that the Jaguars could have done to make their team better was maybe one of the wide receivers. If they had traded for one of the wide receivers, then sure. But defensively, I have no problems with the Jaguars getting rid of Dante Fowler, because they draft him, he tears his ACL, he's got issues off the field, they've got better players. It was nothing. I mean, he was not really that important to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is just fine. What is the issue for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Plain and simple, it's the offense. The offense is bad. And you know what? You look at it, and it's actually not as much of the passing game that's that bad, because it's fairly average.
It's the lack of a run game?
Yeah, no run game is really causing a problem because of Leonard Fournette getting hurt. That's huge. I mean, he was such an instrumental part to their success last year, beyond just the defense as well. But the defense is still there. Without the running game, that's kind of no longer masking the just average passing attack. And all of a sudden, the Jacksonville Jaguars are being exposed, especially when you have a team like the Houston Texans, who are sitting there saying, we've got the good defense and we've got a really good offense. We got a great passing attack.
Yeah, I look at this, and first off, my first thought is, I'm sorry, Jacksonville, because I feel like this entire season is my fault in some way.
Of course.
Because, of course, there's like people like Dave that are like, come on, get off yourself. It wasn't because you picked him to win the Super Bowl. But once is, all right, it happened. Two's a coincidence. Three's, there's something going here. We're riding on like year 4 of this. So there might be something to it. Let's get into, though, I'm going to say the real team. The team in contention. The team that gets Dante Fowler Jr. First off, him coming to this team, how much of a boost is it to the Rams?
It's a boost. It's not a huge boost, but it's a nice kind of refresher, because you can afford now to not let your defensive players get as tired, not let your defensive front get as tired, because you have so many valuable pieces here, and this will certainly help Fowler become a better player in the NFL, because his problem was just that he was inconsistent. He's been incredibly inconsistent in the NFL. Now he can hopefully be a little bit more consistent, because less is going to be expected of him. So that's going to be a very valuable part. He can just be, another piece to the puzzle here. But for the Rams, they already have one of the better passing games. They've got the best running game in the NFL. They've got one of the best defenses in the NFL. They score more points than almost everybody. It's hard to get better when you're the Rams, so this is nice.
And the thing I look at this is, although nobody was talking about this happening, or at least I saw the Rams making a deal at the deadline, this makes sense that we should have seen something like this coming, because there was also, remember what I told you, after the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, news came out of L.A. that the Rams were really trying to push for a Khalil Mack trade because they wanted to trade for him this year, then after this year, flip him for draft picks.
Yeah.
So this offseason, then flip him for draft picks. They didn't get that because the Bears won that sweepstakes and were able to get Khalil Mack. But this is a win for me in the eyes of the Rams because your defense is already good. Like, you've got guys like Brockers, you've got Ndamukong Suh, you've got Aaron Donald, obviously.
They
Marcus
have 7
Peters.
first-round picks.
Exactly. And now you add another one. Or was that 7 with Dante Fowler?
Yep.
So you had 6, now you got 7. And what you said is 100% true, is you're not expecting Dante Fowler to be the main guy, to be the guy like he was supposed to be in Jacksonville. You can let him, hey, you're going to be a part of this unit, and you're not going to be tired all the time because we've got other pass rushers. We're just going to cycle these guys in and keep fresh bodies going at this quarterback because the thing for the Rams, and this kind of leads into this discussion, is now that they are, 7-0 on the season, 8-0 on the year, there is now legitimate, not just, hey, can they go 16-0 because they're halfway there, but the legitimacy of, all right, is this team going to be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year? And this is a kind of deal that says, hey, we can send a 3rd and a future 5th because we won't need those because they're going to be so late because we're going to be contending.
And here's an interesting thing with that. The one thing that I think is interesting is it's going to be very fascinating to watch this team in like 3 years when they have to start paying some of the young players and just to see how this team lasts, especially when they are so all in, and they should be. They should be all in.
If you win a Super Bowl this year, then everything is good. You won a Super Bowl.
Exactly. Just ask Philadelphia. They're feeling pretty good about it. That's what you need to do. You got to go for it. You got to be all in. And this really is pushing the chips into the middle of the table and saying we're winning a Super Bowl. So you have that. But the thing that's interesting to me is just the absolute arms race that is the NFC compared to the AFC. I mean,
it's just there's so many great teams.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what the Bears are trying to do, and the Bears are not 100% in the arms race yet.
But
they're
Khalil
like
Mack
just outside of it.
Got them to that point.
He got them in the conversation to where it's like next year, sure, the Bears can make their moves to try and do what the Rams are doing.
Yes.
You've already got a complete team with the Minnesota Vikings who went and got their quarterback. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles who won the Super Bowl last year with their backup quarterback, and they went and they got themselves a wide receiver because they needed one. You have the Rams who are just stockpiling everything that they can get. You have so many teams just trying to do it and trying to compete, and they're going to go at each other.
The Saints adding an Eli Apple. The Redskins adding a Clinton Dix.
So many of these teams are going for it. And then you got the AFC over there where the Patriots went for it, and everyone else is kind of saying, just when's Tom going to retire?
The only team on the AFC side that went for it, the Texans.
Yep.
And that's only because their division is now A, wide open, that the Jaguars are struggling. B, Houston goes, we want to retain. Like, yes, they had the wide receiver injuries that happened, but also, hey, we want to be able to hold on to this division while Andrew Luck is coming back, while the Jaguars are down. You look at everything else from the trades, the Ravens add a running back that's not really going to add much to their team, like doesn't move the needle at all for them.
Yep.
You look at the Browns to where fired their head coach. We're going to get into that.
Yep.
They shipped Carlos Hyde away.
Fire the offensive coordinator as well.
Fire the offensive coordinator. You look at Jacksonville. Hey, we're going to go ahead and, we'll trade for Carlos Hyde. But you know what? Really, we're going to trade Dante Fowler, and we're going to get him. We're going to get some draft picks in here. And then you look at teams like the Raiders, full sell mode. And then you look at the Broncos. Hey, we're going to go ahead and get rid of a quality number 2 wide receiver to get draft picks in here. Yes, we talked about how that's to move younger guys up, but those younger guys aren't going to help them win this year. That's going to be a future thing that what they do to where the NFC, like you mentioned it, the Redskins add Clinton Dix to stay in their division. Eagles and Cowboys make moves to win their division. The Saints, we're going to add a cornerback because we need help in our secondary because we're 6-1. We're going to need someone like that when we go up against the Rams like they will this week. And then the Rams sitting there at 8-0 and still having the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what? We can get a little bit better. Like, we're not going to be complacent here at 8-0. We're going to make a move, ship some draft picks off, and get better so that we solidify our chance at number one home field running through the Coliseum and our chance to get to the Super Bowl and be playing in Atlanta.
Yeah, and they're a team that they need to go for it. You need to go for it right now. You need to do everything you can because the NFL is one of those any given Sunday type of leagues.
It's the whole one-game playoff. I mean, look at the Saints-Vikings. Saints thought they had it in the bag. Boom, one play changes it.
And not to rub salt in the wound, but when you talk about this team, no one's going to think that the Buffalo Bills are a good team. People are going to say that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be right in there to compete for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the Vikings lose to the Bills. Those type of things can happen. You never know what's going to happen in the NFL. So the Rams need to do everything in their power to say, it doesn't matter what's going to get thrown at us. We can beat it. We can be better than that. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're just trying to answer any possible question that comes at them.
Yet again, this was a segment that we had a couple weeks ago. This is when you were not on the podcast, Brandon was, and we talked about better chances. This is when both teams were undefeated.
Yeah.
Better chance to get to the Super Bowl, Rams and Chiefs. When it comes to the Rams, at 8-0, what are you thinking? How confident are you that this team is going to be representing the NFC in Super Bowl this year?
Well, they're obviously the favorite. There's no doubt about that in the NFC. You look at the teams that are going to compete with them. You've got the New Orleans Saints, the Minnesota Vikings. You have the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Vikings are sitting outside the playoffs right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that the Chicago Bears, even if they get into the playoffs,
they're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, even if they get into the playoffs, they're not going to really
be
an actual contender, not yet. And I don't really see another team in the NFC that I'm sitting there going, yeah, for sure, they're going to compete.
I'm telling you.
It's those three.
If the playoffs started today, we've got Rams, Saints, Redskins, Bears, Panthers, Seahawks. If this was our playoffs at the end of the year, I would say book it, Saints-Rams. Saints-Rams is your NFC title game.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see any of the teams through. Maybe the Redskins can, like, jump a team. But I don't see any of those four. Now, the Vikings, the Packers, the Eagles, some of those teams I could see maybe getting the better of a Saints-like team.
Yeah, and I think that really when it comes to all the teams, when I ask myself, if they were playing right now, who do I expect to win? It's the Rams. Every time. It's definitely the Rams every time. You know, the AFC, it's going to come down to right now, it would come down to the Chiefs and the Patriots. Clear cut.
No Steelers at all. I mean, the Steelers right now are technically third, but you don't think at all they can contend with. Let's say they played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You don't think they can contend with the Chiefs?
I don't necessarily know that they'll keep up with the Chiefs. Chiefs know how to score points. As long as Andy Reid doesn't pull a classic Andy Reid, which is just kind of ruin it at the very end here, oftentimes by forgetting to run the ball.
Or clock management.
You know, as long as he doesn't have a classic Andy Reid type of moment, I think that they'll easily be able to get past the Steelers.
And I'm bringing this up because it has to do with the Rams. You know what's going to be interesting for the Chiefs? Yeah, right now, they only have one loss, so they're one game ahead of New England.
Yeah.
The Monday night game on November 19th, the one that's in Mexico City, I believe that one is, huge. They need to win that game. If the Rams win that game, the Chiefs, because they have lost to the Patriots, boom, will be the 2 seed. And you lose home field advantage to the Patriots, and then we'll probably have to play those Steelers instead of having the Steelers go into New England for a playoff matchup.
Very nice. Yeah, just looking at the way the playoff standings are right now, it would be a very interesting playoff on both sides. Actually, it really would. You'll have some interesting teams. I mean, you have some fresh teams in there, like the Bears, like the Redskins, like the Chargers and Bengals and Texans. You got some fresh teams, some things that would be exciting. But I do think it would pretty clear-cut come out to a Rams Saints and a Chiefs Patriots 1-2, 1-2. The only thing that I think could make a difference, I do think that a Texans team could maybe surprise somebody and get a win. I don't necessarily know that any of the teams in the NFC are going to be a surprise team to get into a Super Bowl right now.
At this moment, with the current standings we have, the NFC, I'm not giving 3 through 6 a chance. It is Saints and Rams all day. But I look at the current standings in the AFC. You know who's my Super Bowl team from this side?
Who's that?
The Patriots. They would play the Steelers. Steelers can't beat the Patriots in the playoffs. It's a known fact. It is scientifically proven. Mike Tomlin can't beat Bill Belichick.
I don't even necessarily know that the Steelers would beat the Bengals.
Well, there's that. But I'm assuming if higher seeds move on, I would give a higher chance of upset to the Texans going into Arrowhead, which is a tough place to play, and beating Andy Reid. Notice how I said beating Andy Reid, because that's how you lose. Andy Reid messes that game up. Then I would give the Steelers going into Foxborough and beating Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah. So, obviously, there's a lot of football that can happen. A lot of things will change.
I mean, we still got the Ravens are still in it. The Dolphins are still in it. The Titans are still in it. The Vikings, Packers, Falcons are technically still in this. So, there's a lot to kind of go with. But with this trade, I think this is good for the Rams. Hey, we can give up some draft picks. We're going to add a guy who's going to help our pass rush, and we're just going to bolster this defense to help our already amazing offense, and we are not going to be complacent. We are going to get better because our ultimate goal is winning a Super Bowl. Any final thoughts on anything before we move on into a team that's not too good, the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, my only final thoughts is, in all reality, the only team that stands in the Rams' way, the Rams.
Is themselves?
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think if it's going to be injury, if it's going to be something dumb, because they do have a lot of people with off-field issues and things like that.
Question for you. If you are, put yourself in a Rams fan's shoes. You are now a Rams fan. Congratulations.
Done. Thank you.
Would you rather lose a game in the regular season, lose a game or two in the regular season and be a 2-loss team in the playoffs, or win every regular season game and go for undefeated 19-0?
Well, I don't want to. Yeah, I want to go undefeated.
But which one would you feel? Which one do you feel would be more beneficial to your team? Being undefeated in the playoff and that pressure that comes with it, or hey, I don't care if we lose a game or two here in the regular season and go in at 14-2.
Too often, the team that decides to rest starters at the end doesn't make a difference. So go for it all. Go for undefeated. You've built up such a strong team. You've went all in. I don't want to see you rest a single starter.
Not, and I'm going to change the question, not necessarily resting starters, but just outcomes of games.
Well, no, I don't want to ever lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, there's a part of it of like, I would be fine if we lost
the first one out of the way.
Not that I want to lose, but hey, lose in the regular season. I'd rather lose one in the regular season than lose in the Super Bowl like the Patriots did.
Obviously, if you're going to lose a game, you don't want it to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I mean, could you imagine going undefeated up until the Super Bowl and losing to a guy that now many Giants fans want cut from their team? Like, could you imagine losing, not to that guy just once, but that guy twice?
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I can never understand what that feels like. Maybe someone in
maybe one
Northeast,
day you'll know.
In the Northeast of the United States, maybe they can tell us. Maybe someone here from MVP can tell us what that feels like as well. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What does this do for the Rams and their Super Bowl hopes? And then also the Jaguars. What do you think of them after this? Let us know what you think in that comment section.